When I first got into multifamily, I managed everything myself. I thought I was being smart. Why would I pay someone to do something I could do on my own? I was collecting rents, coordinating the repairs, dealing with all the tenants directly on my personal cell phone, pretty much all of it you could think of. For a little while, honestly, it felt fine. I felt in control, but then things started stacking up. A tenant stops paying, another one has a maintenance issue, I've got a unit turning over, and suddenly I'm spending my evenings just trying to keep up with the property instead of growing. I remember getting a call on a Saturday morning, a broken water heater. Tenants need it fixed now, and I'm out at an NC State tailgate trying to track down a plumber while also doing other things, as you could imagine. That was the moment I realized I wasn't an investor anymore. I was just a landlord. And those are two very different things when you step back and look at it. So today I want to talk about property management, why bringing in a team is one of the best moves you can make, and how to actually find a good one, and what to look for so you don't end up in a worse spot than before. So let's be real about something. A lot of people think property management is just collecting rent. It's not. A property manager is basically running a small business inside your investment. They're handling tenant communication, maintenance requests, lease renewals, move-ins, move-outs, vendor relationships, bookkeeping for all the property, pretty much all of it you could think of. And when you try to do all of that work yourself while also working another job, potentially raising a family or trying to find your next deal, something always falls through the cracks. Usually that little slip up will cost you a lot of money. Trust me, I know. So here's the thing. The whole point of buying an investment property is to build wealth and create income that doesn't require you to trade your time for it every single day. The moment you become the landlord who's answering calls at 10 o'clock at night about a broken garbage disposal, you've just bought yourself a second job. And that's not what this is supposed to be. Now I want to address the pushback I always hear, which is property management is too expensive. It's going to eat into my cash flow. And yeah, it costs money. Typically, you're looking at somewhere around 8 to 12% of the rent collected, depending on the market and the size of the property. Some charge flat fees, some charge a percentage. Some do both with add-on fees for things like lease up or maintenance coordination. So you need to understand what you're actually paying for before you sign anything. But here's how I think about it. That fee is the cost of running your business properly. If a good property manager keeps your units occupied, turns units faster, they more than pay for themselves. A bad one will absolutely cost you more than their fee, which is exactly why finding the right property manager matters so much. So, $1 million question, how do you find a good property manager? The first thing I tell you is do not just look at Google and the top results in your city. You want to go based off referrals. Talk to other investors in your market. Go to a local real estate meetup, investor groups, or even Facebook groups that are focused in your city. Ask who people are using, and more importantly, ask who they stopped using and why. The horror stories are just as useful as the success stories. Trust me, don't make the same mistake I did. Once you've got a few names, you want to interview them. And I mean actually interview them and treat it like you're hiring an employee, because you basically are. Ask them how many units they currently manage. Ask them what their average vacancy rate looks like. Ask them how they handle maintenance requests and what their process is for vetting vendors. Ask how they communicate with owners. Do you get a monthly report, a portal you can just log into, or are you just there waiting for them to call you? That stuff matters a lot when you're trying to keep tabs on your asset from a distance. You also want to look at how they handle maintenance. This is actually one of the biggest areas property managers could either save you money or quietly drain it. Some managers have in-house maintenance crews, some use third-party vendors, or some give you the option to pick. What you want to make sure is that there is a clear approval process for a bigger expense. Like if the repair is going to cost more than a certain amount, say $500, they shouldn't be calling you first. That threshold should be written into your management agreement. If a manager tells you that they'll just handle everything and send you the bill, that's not a great setup unless you fully trust them and you verify their vendor relationships are solid. Speaking of the management agreement, read it, and then read it again. I know that sounds obvious, but people sign these things without understanding the termination clauses, and they end up stuck with a bad manager for 6 months because they can't get out of their contract without paying a penalty. Look for how much notice you need to give to end the relationship, whether there's a termination fee, and what happens to your tenant's files and security deposit when you transition out. A good manager won't have a problem with a clean, reasonable termination clause. If they're fighting you on that, ask yourself why. The other thing I want to say is your relationship with your property manager should not be completely hands-off. I hear people say they just want to be totally passive and just get a check every month. And look, that is the goal eventually, but especially in the beginning, you want to stay informed, You want to review your monthly reports, check your vacancy numbers, and if something looks off, ask about it. A property manager works best when the owner is engaged enough to hold them accountable, but trust them enough to do their job. The worst dynamic is an owner who micromanages every little thing. That will burn out even a great manager. But the second worst is an owner who checks out completely and acts surprised 2 years later when the property is in rough shape and disrepair. Here's the principle I keep coming back to. Property management is not a cost you're trying to minimize. It's an investment in protecting the asset you worked hard to acquire. You're paying for expertise, systems, and bandwidth that you probably don't have if you're trying to scale. The right manager extends your ability to grow. The wrong one caps it off. So if you're on the fence, here's what I'd tell you. At least have the conversation, get 2 or 3 names from other investors in your market, set up calls, ask the hard questions. You don't have to commit to anything right away, but at least know what your options are. Because the longer you stay stuck in self-management mode, the more time and energy you're spending that could be going towards finding your next deal. If this helped, drop a comment below. I'd love to know where you're at with your portfolio and whether you're self-managing or working with a property manager right now. If you comment property manager and you are subscribed to our channel, we will personally send you the property management checklist we use to find the property manager that we currently use in our portfolio. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do that. We talk about multifamily investing, deal structure, financing, and everything in between. I'll see you on the next one.